Hi guys, this is Vidya and I hope you're doing well. Today I'm talking about some of the precautions that I took during my pregnancy. This is not medical advice. These are some things that I did throughout my pregnancy and during the first year of breastfeeding as well. So I'll start with the food that I avoided and I'll talk about some personal care items and some household cleaners. So if you want to skip ahead, the timestamps will be in the description box below. But let's start with food. The basic thing, like the overall precaution that I took was to make sure that my food is thoroughly cooked. I took a little extra care with animal products like eggs, meat, milk, dairy. I made sure all of these are thoroughly cooked because uncooked eggs, uncooked meat can have listeria or salmonella, which is bacteria that is quite dangerous for pregnant women. So just when it comes to these things, I made sure that the milk is pasteurized, the cheese that I use is pasteurized, because sometimes when you have salads at a restaurant, they put blue cheese dressing on it, which is not pasteurized. So things like that I took a little bit of care. And while we're talking about restaurants, I avoided eating raw food at restaurants, like especially salads or fruits, cut up things that can be on surfaces that may have germs on them. And similarly, things like chaats and bhel puris that are prepared by people's hands, and you know, a lot depends on if they've cleaned their hands or not. It's not to say that if you eat out once you'll fall sick, but if there's a slight chance, I'd like to avoid it for just 9 months. It's not that hard for me to do. The reason I was more careful during my pregnancy is because during pregnancy we can't take some of the medicines that we normally take for like flu or stomach bugs. You can't take a lot of antibiotics or strong medicines. So our body has to fight extra hard to get rid of these infections if we do get them. So why take that chance? Why not avoid certain things that cause these infections in the first place? And it doesn't interfere with your life that much. You just pay a little more extra attention. So when it comes to eating out, I also avoided sushi, which has raw fish. Even if I don't choose the variety with raw fish, it's made on the same board as the raw fish ones, so I kind of stayed away from that. Raw fish is something that people say you should avoid, but lots of people believe otherwise, and women in Japan have been eating raw fish for centuries without any problems. So it's up to you to decide, but for me it was something that I could easily give up. With fruits and vegetables it was easier because I used to just make sure that everything I eat is thoroughly washed and properly cooked. It was pretty easy to do. With things like spinach and stuff, I used to just cook them a little bit more, that's all. And this was important because sometimes companies recall their vegetables also. This happened once in my pregnancy. Here in the US it's common that companies find out that a packet or something is infected and they recall the entire batch from all the stores. So we had this call once that one of the frozen bags of vegetables that we had got from Costco had been recalled, and I had been using it, right? So I was really concerned and I called my nurse just to be safe, and she also said the same thing, that as long as you're thoroughly cooking your vegetables, you should be okay. Moving to skincare products. So skincare products have a lot of chemicals in them that are hiding. Not that I used a lot of products, but I was surprised to find how many hidden chemicals are there that are not good for us in our everyday skincare, like lotions, soaps and shampoos and stuff. So I started looking at the label more carefully, and one website that helped me was EWG. EWG is like a non-profit website that characterizes all these commonly found chemicals in skincare products or household products and gives it a rating from I think 1 to 10, and it gives you the safety levels of each product. So I started going on this website to check whether the products I'm using are safe or not. That was a good resource to have, and I learned a lot of things from that website. I learned some of the common chemicals that I could just avoid looking at the label. A few things that I looked for at the back of my skincare products were parabens. This is very commonly known, but maybe some of you don't know it, but parabens are now known to be carcinogenic, and they used to be used a lot in skincare products. Even now some of the products sneak them in and we don't notice, and this is a commonly found preservative and it gets absorbed through our skin. Our skin is our biggest organ, right? So there will be something that goes through our skin into our bloodstream, and while we are pregnant might get into our baby's bloodstream as well. You'll find alternatives that don't have parabens. Another thing was retinol. Retinol is used for reducing wrinkles and fine lines, and it'll be in your night creams and stuff. So retinol is pretty safe, I guess, for normal use, but during pregnancy it's considered not safe, so I stayed away from anti-aging creams. Another thing was lead. Now lead is used very commonly to make red lipstick. So if you're using red lipstick, try to find out if it is lead free, or maybe just avoid it for a few months, right? Lead is something that is everywhere. It gets into our soil and it gets into our food. We get exposed to lead without knowing it, but this is something small that we can do to avoid it, so why not? The reason I keep stressing so much about avoiding these chemicals is because there have been studies in small groups that have found that newborn blood, like the umbilical cord blood of newborn babies, has been found to have trace amounts of these chemicals, these heavy metals, these chemicals that are found in our daily life, and that is pretty concerning. These studies have been small and in, you know, small groups of people, but the chemicals they've found are everywhere. Some of the common things they found were BPA. We all know BPA is widely used in plastic, and we also know that we can easily find BPA free plastic, especially for baby products and stuff. So BPA was a very common chemical found in, I think, 9 out of the 10 babies. I'll link the study in the description box below. Every few years they come up with a study that says that something we commonly use is very dangerous for us. So it's up to us, you know, to keep on top of it and be, you know, really worried about every single thing. But personally, what I do is try to make small switches between products, between brands, some small habits that don't interfere much with my lifestyle, right? And don't make me too paranoid about every single thing. So switching skincare brands and switching household products is some of those things that I can easily do without, you know, spending that much more money or spending that much more effort. A few more things that were found in these studies were Teflon. Teflon is that coating that is on non-stick pans that were everywhere, and now people are getting more aware of this, and it is again very easy to switch to a regular cast iron or a stainless steel pan, which is more non-toxic. Other places where you find a lot of chemicals are dry shampoos and hairsprays. Now, if you have the habit of using these, you should definitely look at the label. The label has a lot of chemicals in it, and these are usually aerosols. You inevitably inhale it, right? So I try to stay away from these kind of spray hair products. And if you go to a salon, I would suggest asking them to turn a fan on or open the windows to let the air out if they're using any of these chemicals or bleaches on another customer. You don't want to be exposed too much to them. This also applies to nail polishes. A lot of them have benzene or other chemicals that I didn't want to be exposed to. Again, it doesn't mean you can't get an occasional manicure when you're pregnant. It just means that if you have the habit of changing your nail polish every week or going to a nail salon, you might get exposed to more of these chemicals than you want to. So I just didn't use nail polish, again because it was an easy switch for me to make, because I was going to stop using nail polish anyway when my son was born, when I was around him. So I just started with that habit earlier on. So learning about all of these chemicals kind of made me more aware of what goes into our products, our body lotions and stuff. So I just switched to an all-natural body butter, which I've talked about in my other videos as well. But this body butter is amazing because I know what goes into it. I know the ingredients, where I've got them from, and I've started using vitamin E oil in it now, like after pregnancy. But it's a beautiful body butter that just replaces any body lotion that I used to use. And it's amazing because I used to have a lot of skin allergies and I used to take medication like very frequently, like every few days. But since I started using this and coconut oil during my pregnancy, I have completely stopped. Like, it has been 3 years since I used an allergy medication for my skin. Maybe I've used it once or twice, but that's a huge improvement for me, and that's like one big wake-up call for me to switch from those chemical-laden products that are available. And now let's talk about household cleaners. Now, household cleaners are chock full of chemicals, and we know that, right? But can we avoid them completely? On one hand, you want to be natural and healthy and free of chemicals, but on the other hand, it's also important for you to have a clean home, clean surroundings, and good hygiene, right? So what do you do? One thing that I used to take lightly before was to wear my cleaning gloves, but once I got pregnant and I learned about this stuff getting into our body through our skin, I started being more religious about wearing my cleaning gloves every time I used to use one of these like these Clorox wipes or anything with bleach in it. Bathroom cleaners are known to have a lot of these chemicals and bleaches, so every time I use them, I would kind of leave the exhaust on and leave the windows open for longer than I usually do. Speaking of leaving the windows open, paint, like fresh paint, is also kind of a concern for pregnant women. So if you walk into a room that has been freshly painted, the fumes from that could, you know, be inhaled. So you could very easily just step out of the room for some time or open the windows. And if you're having your home painted, your nursery painted for your baby, have someone else do it, and try to choose a paint that is lead free and non-toxic. They're very easy to find. That's one of the perks of living in today's day and age. We can find a lot of these alternate products that have very less toxic chemicals in them. The only thing we have to do is look, that's all. There's no need to be afraid, there's no need to be paranoid. We just have to look in the right places. Another thing that I looked into to make this switch was household cleaning sprays. I found this brand called Mrs. Mayer's. I've switched to that and I've been very happy with it. You can go all natural. You can just mix some vinegar and water or a little bit of alcohol in a spray bottle, and that should do the trick. But if you want something stronger, like this cleans really well and it smells good and it doesn't have all of those nasty chemicals in it, so I like this brand. Also with laundry detergents have a lot of synthetic dyes, fragrances that get into our skin, cause a lot of irritation for some people. Some people are more sensitive, but all of us are getting exposed to these. So if you want something without natural fragrances, now is a good time to look for it. I've been using this one recently. This is by 7th generation, but I've been through a few brands, and we take so much care about choosing products for our babies, right? Once they're born, we want the best baby wash, baby detergent, baby shampoo, but we should start looking for these while we are pregnant. One, because we won't have time to research all that once the baby is born, and secondly, our baby is being exposed to them while they're still in our womb, right? So why not start early? And lastly, I want to quickly touch upon personal hygiene, because when you're pregnant, in your last trimester, you'll be given a test for group B strep, which is a bacteria that is very commonly found in our bodies. But if you're pregnant and have it, if you're positive for it, you'll be given an antibiotic, I think just before labor or something. And I kind of was aware of this because I really wanted to have a natural, unmedicated birth as much as I could. I know some things are not in my control, but I wanted to do the maximum to enable that. So one thing was to maintain good hygiene in your home and when I was going outside. Public bathrooms are where these germs thrive, right? So I tried to avoid public bathrooms as much as I could, but if I couldn't, I would make sure that I'm following proper hygiene, using those toilet seat covers, doubling up, and then washing my hands properly, coming home. As soon as I would come home, not as soon as, but when I came home from outside, I would take a shower and get all clean. Not the end of the world if you are tested positive for group B strep. Like a huge percentage of women have it, and they're given antibiotics and they go on to give births to perfectly healthy babies. So it's not that big of a deal. It's just that a test that needs to be done and action needs to be taken for it. And if you know where the most commonly found areas are where you can catch this bacteria, you can just take a few precautions, do what you can to avoid it, right? So that was a kind of whole goal behind this video. It was just to let you know, without going too far down this rabbit hole of being scared and finding out new things that we have to stay away from and dangerous stuff, but without doing all of that, some things that we can easily do in our daily life just to be on the safer side during our pregnancy. So I hope you found this video useful, and please let me know in the comment section below if I've left something out. Like, this was from my pregnancy more than, I think, almost 4 years ago. New information is constantly coming out, so if you know something that I've missed out, do let me know in the comment section. It'll be so useful for all the other would-be moms out there, and I'll see you in one of my next videos. Until then, take care. Bye.